Coming up tonight on LoOG Center. So stay tuned, because LoOG Center is next.
So coming up right now, it's time for the Blitz.
The Blitz brought to you by Doritos.
Doritos.
This week on the Blitz, we go over the scores and highlights from week 1 in the LoOG. First game, Chubby Funster versus the Stepdads. This one was a slobber knocker. Oh, is that copyrighted? Can I use that?
You can use that.
I can use that. Fantastic. Unfortunately for Chubby Funster, not the way he wanted to start out. The Stepdads kind of took him to the woodshed. Tom Brady being Tom Brady put up 3 touchdowns, and Austin Collie kicked in 140-something yards himself and a touchdown to boot. Stepdads, 91. Chubby Funster, 72.
Look, I told myself that after I had my mock draft and I drafted Matt Schaub, right before our draft, I told myself I wasn't going to draft Matt Schaub. And what did I do?
You drafted Matt Schaub.
I drafted Matt Schaub. So, you know, I'm looking for a little bit more production from him next week.
It's a good way to stick to your guns, though.
Thanks. Thanks. Good win for the Stepdads. Up next, we got Sterling Archer versus Ray Finkel's boys. As I said last week, this is a preview of the rivalry week game, the Planet Fitness Bowl, if I have that correct. And it's really what the LoOG is all about. Because in Ray Finkel's boys, you've got the young upstart rookie versus the old, decrepit, 2-time champion. I really enjoy the dichotomy of this game. It was young versus old, ugly versus pretty, and it turned out that the rookie came out on top.
Sometimes
Ray Finkel's boys, 71, Sterling Archer, 52.
Sometimes ugly wins.
Yes. What was pretty for Sterling Archer was Miles Austin coming in with 22 fantasy points this week.
Stud.
146 passing yards and 1 TD. You're going to need more from Joe Flacco, though, who only had 6 points. And you're going to need to spread the points around a little bit more this week. The rest of your team was only in single digits for fantasy points.
No.
Flack no. And give it up for Ray Finkel's boys. Dallas Clark with 80 yards and 1 TD, giving Ray Finkel's boys 14 fantasy points.
Good for him.
Good for him indeed.
Our next matchup, every year there's games that you put on the calendar. Games that are can't miss, that you gather the family around. You sit down together because you know it's going to be memorable. Now, this was not even close to one of those games. Not even close. This was one, it's not going to make its way to a calendar, a day of the week calendar, an hourly calendar, any kind of calendar. It did happen, though. Long and the short of it, F-Bombers, 51. Slobber Knockers, 44. Both teams despicably scored less points than I did, and that's embarrassing for everyone involved, including me.
So in the pre-show meeting that we had this afternoon, I said that maybe this should be the game of the week, and I was quickly shot down. No.
Not the game of the week.
Maybe the stinker of the week.
Stinker of the week. I would concur. When the two teams don't combine to score more than 100 points in Fantasy League, we got ourselves the week stinker.
So Slobber Knockers, Michael Bush is out with an injured thumb. He wound up registering 0 fantasy points. But injuries have already rocked the Slobber Knockers early in the season. Yeah,
but not to be outdone, the F-Bombers went ahead and lost Matthew Stafford to a shoulder injury. So they didn't want to get too big of an advantage, I guess. It was a very fair play on their part.
Guess not. Up next, the Smithfield Slugs versus Team Jacob. Now, I have it on good authority that the Smithfield Slugs are on Team Edward. So this has a lot of Twilight implications for it. This is good for us because it's going to pull in the young teenage girl demo.
We needed the tween demographic for LoOG Center. What's Twilight, by the way?
I think it's a video game? Twilight? Twilight the video game? I don't know.
Sounds about right.
But anyway, Smithfield Slugs come out on top on this one, 114 to 50.
Yeah,
50.
The Slugs' Jay Cutler, an astounding 372 yards passing.
Is that
wow.
Is that Mike Mart's offense?
I guess so. That's a lot of points, a lot of yards. Well, 23 fantasy points. But congratulations to Jay Cutler. More touchdowns than interceptions.
Team Jacob is going to look for more from Sean Green in the future. -1 fantasy point.
Yee.
That's what happens when you only rush for 27 yards
Good.
and lose a fumble.
Yikes. Next, highlights, lowlights, and no lights. Gothenburg Vikings, Rookie of the Year candidate, right off the bat versus Plain Nasty, the KG veteran, if you will. Unfortunately for the KG veteran, the Vikings had Chris Johnson and Phillip Rivers, who pretty much picked up where they left off from last year. For the nasty team, the Vikings got a little nasty with them. Kevin Kolb knocked out, concussion. He's going to be out for him. Bumped his little head. So it's going to be rough coming back from that. Yeah, looks like the Gothenburg Vikings sacked another village, 78-54.
The Cockringos versus Team Evil. This is again a rookie versus a returning champion. Who would win, you asked? Well, we had the same question. And the answer? The rookie, the Cockringos, prevail 141 to 71. And prevail mightily. 1 point shy from doubling Team Evil's score.
Anytime you can win by 70 points.
Arian Foster had 43 points. Matt Forte had 32 points. Combined, their running backs would have beaten some teams in the LoOG this weekend.
Mine included.
Yikes. And on a personal note, Cockringos and Team Evil, both engaged.
Yes. Do you think that maybe had something to do with Team Evil's performance?
Well, that's something we're going to be keeping a close eye on all throughout the season. I think it may have affected his performance.
I'm not going to lie. It did. I have it on good authority. So. Next up, the LoOG Game of the Week. I probably should have camera. Damn. Anyway, Sugar Hill Gang versus the Responsible Lobster. The Responsible One and Sugar Hill Gang battled back and forth, an epic confrontation for a week 1 battle that really the rest of the league didn't live up to. This is what we expect from the league on a week-in, week basis, week-in, week-out basis from all of our teams. And it was a little disappointing that this was the only one that really came through with a down-to-the-wire finish. Some highlights for the Sugar Hill Gang: Eli Manning, 3 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, still a solid day. And the wily one, Wes Welker, had 2 touchdowns for the New England Patriots. Responsible Lobster, solid pickup with Chad Ochocinco, 23 fantasy points, and Carson Palmer, the man distributing him the pigskin, with 22 points. Good job in the 110-104 victory, Lobster. We look forward to more of that.
That's a tough loss for Sugar Hill Gang. An early favorite of mine. Usually don't lose when you have triple fantasy points.
No.
So, coming up next, Touchdown Jesus and Prestige Worldwide. One has a name so sacred and revered by billions across the globe. I was almost a little bit hesitant to allow this person to use that name in the league this year. And then on the other side, you have Touchdown Jesus. So, who would come out on top? Well, it's been answered. Prestige Worldwide wins in a narrow one, 79-76. So this was the closest game of the week.
It was.
But it was not the game of the week because neither one scored in triple digits.
No. Question for you. Do you think Manning's 400-plus yards helped Prestige win this game.
433 yards, 3 touchdowns for Mr. Peyton Manning, resulting in 31 fantasy points. You would think that he would be the top point getter for the week, but that was not the case.
Wrong.
And we will get to that in our top stories later on. So, that's it. That's the Blitz. You've been blitzed.